I grew up in Byron Bay. Basically, it's a small little surf town on the east coast of Australia. Pretty much everyone in the town just surfed, and you just hung out at the beach all day and went to school occasionally. And if the surf was good, you just barred school and went surfing.
Yeah, this is the area I grew up in. As you can see, it's not a bad place to live. Beautiful beaches, always surf, warm weather.
It's like fishing, surfing, doing whatever was outdoors. Whatever the day brought, we would do. Used to have barbecues down here with my family. We grew up in a place that's pretty much paradise.
There's only one school, one high school, so we all went to the same school pretty much, and you'd meet each other in surf and stuff like that. So everyone in the band kind of knew each other before this whole thing happened.
Me and Winston used to hang out a lot because he used to be a pretty much professional bodyboarder.
We used to go away on surf trips together, and he used to film me back when I was actually bodyboarding for something, I guess. In the beginning, Byron had no scene at all. There was a handful of kids listening to this music that seemed so out of place in our town.
We started a punk band when I was like 14 or 13 or something, called Think Straight. And then a couple of years later, we sort of evolved into getting into hardcore.
The fact that there's anyone playing heavy music up there, let alone a hardcore scene forming up there, is pretty hard to believe. It's probably the only scene in Australia where 14 and 15-year-old kids were going to shows.
Every venue we had in Byron lasted about 2 shows maximum, and it just got shut down to the point where we had nothing again.
There was no venues in Byron, so if we ever happened to play a show, it would be in my basement at the Parkway house.
The Parkway house, from the first time we went there, is the most open house I've ever been in. Like, it was as if you were going home to your house.
Parkway house is like a little oasis for us and all our friends.
We all got kicked out of other jam spaces throughout the town. Ray and Jenny ended up saying, yeah, you can jam here.
We had a nice place to jam, no neighbours. My parents didn't mind, they loved it.
There was bike jumps in the yard at one point in time. We used to drive shitty cars around the yard and get towed around and just do completely stupid things.
It's just the best childhood ever, I reckon.
Hey, do what you want, but don't do it about me. Idleness, anticipation, breed apathy. I sit on my ass all goddamn day. A misanthropic employed with nothing to say. What you must do all you can. Break all the fucking rules and go to hell with Superman and die like the champion you hate. Hey, I don't know if the billions will survive, but I'll believe in God when 1 and 1 are 5. My moniker is meth, and I'm rotten to the core. I'll tear down the buildings just to pass through the door.
The idea for the band came around the end of 2002.
Winston and Ben initially talked to me about what sort of sound they wanted. They wanted to do something heavier, something faster.
The sound we're after was more technical, but we didn't know if anyone in Byron could be that technical. Until I remember I thought of a guy who I'd heard of and seen around called Jeff.
He said, hey, there's this weird metal guy that I've heard about. He apparently surfs. And I was like, okay, cool, let's try and find him.
Basically, I was the kind of the outcast guy. I always knew all the guys that I was sort of the black sheep a little bit.
So one day I talked to him in the surf about it and just said, hey, we should have a jam one day.
And he's like, yeah, okay. He's never been in a band before. He didn't really know what the hell a jam was. He rocked up and we started jamming.
The first Parkway jam was myself, Winston, Jeff and Luke, the two guitarists, and our old bass player, Steegie.
I remember it feeling pretty weird being in the room with just this random surfer kind of dude, Jeff, that I've never really hung out with.
Luke hadn't learnt how to play notes yet.
As soon as I could play power chords, that's all I ever wanted to know.
I had to teach him how to play notes. He was too much a rhythm / chord player.
Jeff was a bit too over the top, and Luke definitely wasn't technical enough. So they sort of balanced each other out.
And all of a sudden we had 2 songs in the first jam and we started freaking out because it was actually happening. We got something happening here. We want to do something with it. What the hell are we going to call it?
We're thinking we don't want to call it one of those cliched fucking shit, blood on the hands with wings.
Black, tears,
Death, piano,
wings, dying, all that kind of crap that you see going on now.
We just wanted something different that didn't sound metal or gory, because that's not really what we are. We're just normal dudes.
We drove past the street sign one day and we were like, why not just call it Parkway Drive?
and we thought, well, a lot of bands have jammed here. Ben's parents have been, really good to us.
So we thought, let's call it the name of the street we jam on and hang out at.
After about 2 months of jamming, we decided to play our first show.
First show was Byron Bay Youth Centre.
We were just going mental in the youthy, kicking the wall. No one had shirts on. There was about 20 dudes just going crazy.
At the point in time, we thought we were killing it. In reality, we were ridiculous.
Gaz was like, looked 11 with his big fucking afro.
And Winnow was doing some weird Clue Man kind of stance.
Jeff had these, I don't even know if he was wearing boardies or these baggy white pants he wears.
Jeff's never been in a band before, and that was really evident as soon as he hit the stage.
Luke and I had discussed that we were going to try and do some pretty cool moves. Yeah, I don't think the moves were necessary at all.
I remember being at the show and hearing that there was a guy from a band called I Killed the Plum Queen at the show. Turned out to be Crafter.
He started dating a friend of ours up in Byron, so he came up and he was there for our first show because of it.
This was like the first day I came to Byron, so I didn't really expect this band to be good. And then I heard them and was just like, these are the biggest breakdowns ever, and I was just freaking out. Saw the first show ever, and yeah, I just couldn't believe it. It actually was just like, I've got to get this band on something. I've got to get this band released, or I've got to get them on tour.
We're talking, and he said he was going to do a split release with someone, and we were psyched. And we're like, oh yeah, who? That's great. And he was like, we're going to do it with you guys.
Of course, we couldn't even believe they asked us at the time, and we were like, yep, let's do it.
At the time, we'd been a band for about 2 months before we were about to go into the studio and record, and none of us had ever recorded before.
I was like, as if they're even going to be able to work out the recording situation. Because at that time, I think Think Straight had recorded demos in the Parkway basement on like a 4-track.
Pretty much, if you trace everything back that's happened in this band's entire existence, it comes down to that point in time when when Prom Queen offered us a helping hand.
The band's so much better now, but back then it was just ridiculous what I was hearing. I was just like, holy shit, like, this could well be the best fucking band I've heard.
The next thing after releasing the split was touring. For 5 kids from Byron, that's something you never even hear about.
It was just good to be on the road. We'd never done it.
It was a lot of fun. We took a whole bunch of mates. I just recently bought a van.
We used to have to push start the van. Try it.
Dad is a doorknob.
Parkway just acting like kids because half the band was like 15.
Didn't really know what to expect. Didn't know where we were going. Jumped off every bridge we could find.
Now I think about it, I was like, that was pretty much one of the most fun things ever because we were both such young bands and we just didn't give a shit.
We couldn't believe kids in Melbourne and Adelaide were actually getting into our music and moshing, and it was pretty good.
Yeah, I guess it was a fun first tour.
We had a couple of new songs and we thought, well, let's record again. And the only label in Australia that we really wanted to be associated with was Resist Records, which was run by a friend called Graham from Sydney.
You know, I knew the guys were sort of working on some music. They already sort of released a couple of sort of splits and a couple of compilation songs.
We were stoked to be on Resist because we knew Graham was just a good, legit guy. Like, he was come from a hardcore label. He wasn't in it for the money one bit because there was no money back then.
After we signed with Resist, Graham obviously wanted to put something out, so we decided to do an EP, record it up in Brisbane.
That became the Don't Close Your Eyes EP. Don't Close Your Eyes was a big step for us.
You know, for something that I had no expectations on, it's definitely become one of the biggest sellers of the label.
It meant we had an actual solid release out there other than just 2 or 3 songs. So we started to tour more and we started trying to find any way we could to get to other towns just to play shows.
Because we started touring more, I guess at that point we started to really get to know each other better. And I guess we sort of found out some things about each other that we didn't know prior.
Winston is like the weird, mature guy of the band.
You can't talk about sex in front of him because it's like talking about it in front of your dad.
I think he might have no penis or several, we're not sure.
Him at bodyboarding used to be ridiculous. He used to go some of the biggest waves I've ever seen.
Hanging with him one-on-one is always weird. Like, you run out of stuff to talk about in like a minute.
He's basically the personality of the band.
Really confident frontman. Best frontman in Australia, I think.
He comes across as a genuine dude, and that's the difference between him and a lot of other vocalists.
Jeff was always the odd one out.
It just seems like he can't think straight sometimes. He's just got these fucking little monkeys running around in his head.
Filthy, doesn't have much self-respect.
He has small man syndrome.
Does the biggest farts you've ever seen.
He's got hands of a 90-year-old, hair of a 70-year-old.
He's so dumb.
But for some reason he can play guitar, and I just don't get it.
Yeah, Ben's the stinky guy in the band. You can always smell him for about 2 metres.
To me, it was always just the little sweater that hung around with Big Brother and I.
He was this little weed that you could hardly even see behind the kid.
He's so bordering on being homosexual, it's not even funny. It's like -10. Gaz is just like flexing.
The good thing with Gaz is he's not a fucking drum dude.
He doesn't even like drums. He's only playing because no one else could.
Just hitting everything like a maniac.
Once Parkway's over, I don't even reckon he'll hit the drum.
Pig is a natural asshole.
He's a fucking shit guitarist, that's for sure.
He can be your best friend or your worst enemy on tour.
He's as much as the band's manager as Graham is.
Even though I think 95% of the time he's saying he's doing business, he's actually on MySpace.
He never practices guitar.
He's an arsehole.
If he wasn't the way he was, then the band would still be playing the Youthy to 3 Goats.
The next step for us was recording.
We weren't too happy with the production of Don't Close Your Eyes, our last EP. And we just thought,
Why not try and record overseas? Why not try and get a producer?
I got Graham to email a few producers we thought of, and I didn't really expect much interest from the States because No one pretty much had any idea who we were.
Well, they basically wanted to sort of do something that was a bit different to what everyone else was doing. They didn't really want to go with the standard local guide.
One of us came up with the idea of hitting up this guy called Adam D. What we expected from sending an email to a producer that works with all these amazing bands and plays in this giant band was either nothing or an abusive no.
I chose to work with them because, well, you know, Australians talk funny, and it's always entertaining to listen to them.
Yeah, I was pretty excited because Killswitch Engage were my favourite band then, sort of still are.
It was just a surprise that he straight away said, yep, let's do it. When can they come out?
They were kind of cool. I liked their breakdowns.
And back then too, it was sort of not the done thing for a local band or an Australian band to head overseas to work with a producer of that sort of calibre.
For a band to kind of make that massive step, that massive financial step, go overseas and do it, everyone kind of went, all right, this is obviously serious.
It was pretty much make or break for this band.
Come on over, guys. We'll make a record in 2 weeks. Awesome.
I remember he was just such a perfectionist, it was ridiculous. He'd just be there and just say, nope, do it again.
Let's try it one more time.
I think we should do the whole thing again.
Hell yeah! I pretty much knew I was getting into a lot of trouble. Recording a full-length record in 2 weeks is pretty much impossible.
We worked for around 14 hours a day. We wouldn't stop until about 1 every morning.
I was having like night terrors. I wasn't sleeping. I would like wake up screaming, like seeing waveforms of audio in my eyeballs and just hearing breakdown after breakdown.
It was a really good experience to have someone like that working with you.
Listen, fucking English. It's not English. I'm speaking Australian right now, mate.
He's a bit of a genius, really.
Blow, 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 blow.
It destroyed us as humans, but it created a record that we would never have been able to make without him.
The sound they got out of that record is fantastic. It stands up today. It's a huge, massive sound.
It debuted in the ARIA charts, it stayed in the independent charts for a long time, and a lot of this stuff just wasn't the done thing for heavy bands.
Pretty sure that's when shit just started to get fucking serious.
I think it sort of proved that you didn't have to write these pop songs to make people pay attention. And what they did, they made good heavy music and they just made it more appealing.
It made everyone kind of stand up and take notice. Outside the hardcore scene, it was that record which took them beyond that kind of small insular scene and made other people kind of stand up and go, well, shit, this is pretty amazing.
Touring Australia where we'd played every city that it was possible to play in.
We decided to do some more rural tours to get to the spots in between the major cities where not many bands would play.
We just thought, there's heaps of kids out there, why don't we play shows in those towns?
They take it personally, they take it on board and go, they came to our fucking town.
We wanted to go to places that no one had been before.
They wanted to sort of try to book tours around surfing and outdoor adventures rather than the actual shows.
So we came up with the idea of the All Ages Assault Tour.
I just remember seeing some of the places they were going to and just being like, this isn't possible.
Treat it like an adventure, I guess. We're basically going into completely uncharted waters.
It was great. We got a big van, a trailer.
The top half surfboards and bodyboards, bottom half gear.
We got ready at my house. We were all hanging there and I remember just being so excited for this tour. It's fucking over! this day, I reckon, was probably the funnest tour we've ever done.
It was like going on a surf trip, but we were going to play shows.
Parkway were playing like the littlest towns ever and still pull like 1,000 people.
We basically lived life. It was great.
That's the kind of thing that opens up things for not only other bands, but it influences kids in those areas to start bands of their own.
It's fucking awesome. Winston shook my hand.
Until I see your face again, until I end this lovely dance. Until I see you fucking scream, and until I see the moonlight shine with your blood. Until I see your face again, until I end this lovely dance. Until I see you fucking scream, and until I see the moonlight shine red.
Oh my God,
After the All Ages Assault Tour, we'd done it all. We'd toured everywhere we could.
I remember Graham trying to get us on some tours overseas because that was the only place we could go. We toured Australia to death.
There was definitely some interest. We were getting emails and MySpace messages from kids, but there was no interest as far as labels, booking agents.
We didn't have an actual release overseas.
We had no friends overseas, really.
Had no idea if people actually knew of our band.
We wanted to head to Europe, but we had nothing. No one was keen to risk putting us on a tour.
We'd been trying for probably 3 months. And I remember just us being all frustrated. We had no tours coming up. And we just said, fuck this, we can't wait forever. Let's just go ourselves.
Striking at mental apparitions like a drunk on a vacant street.
We rocked up in Europe with a van we hired and a dodgy GPS system that had half the maps. And that was us.
We had a few random shows booked that somehow pieced together.
The fact that no one was sort of even knew the guys made it pretty hard to get on actual support tours.
We basically heard of shows via people and just tried to jump on them.
Is this the show? Check it out. Give it a check out. In Nottingham.
First time Parkway Drive came to Europe, the turnouts were pretty low, like 50 to 100 kids maybe. They played basically shows they booked themselves or friends hooked them up.
We'd call like Graham up and say, have you got anything for us? And he'd say, oh yeah, there's a show in Belgium. So we'd drive from England across to Belgium to play a shitty show, and then we'd be in Belgium and say, what now?
Trusting your approach itself is very rare, and I haven't worked with a band yet that has done a similar thing.
All of a sudden, going from playing sold-out shows to 1,200 kids to half-empty venues of 15 kids.
But the feedback and response was just like when we're starting out in Australia. You could see the momentum building. Kids were coming to like 2 or 3 or 4 shows.
They weren't even signed to a label, and they were pulling kids all across Europe, and then like people just had to start taking notice.
In case you guys don't know, we're Parkway Drive from the other side of the fucking world. And we're fucking stoked to be here. Thank you guys so much for having us in your town.
We paid $3.5 grand for you to be here. Just do it.
Show got treated pretty badly on that tour, I must admit.
Just drive,
I'll
guys.
do it
Seriously.
later.
Just drive.
Nah.
I do feel a bit bad about some of the shit I probably did to him. But at that point in time, I was just pretty fed up with it.
I reckon he looks really tough, eh?
Yeah, you look really tough.
Yeah, I got written off a lot.
Jed Gordon, the most fucked up human ever to grace the planet.
Chod's been with us since the beginning.
He's just so gross. He went through this phase, he's put on heaps of weight, he's just fat. and shit and lazy.
Pretty much chose the dude that's had the munchies his whole life.
We brought him over to Europe because we thought we needed a hand.
Everyone just wrote me off. I drove a lot of it, and then when I didn't want to drive, I got made to drive more.
We sort of use him as a personal punching bag a little bit.
You're a pisshead!
But he likes to dish it a fair bit as well.
I'm on two back show!
Chode, the 6th member of Parkway.
Winston's voice blew out because he got sick from all the cigarettes in Europe.
We were playing a show in Wales. My lungs started aching and my health in general just went down the drain.
So we thought, we can't play the next show, or we can get Chode to sing it.
And I was like, nah, it's not happening, eh? There's no way I'm doing this.
We somehow roped Chode into singing a show for me.
He wore these pink trackies.
With his socks pulled over the top and his green slippers.
Hoodie, hat, just covered himself right up.
Most of the set was them stuffing up because they were laughing too hard at me.
It was seriously the worst thing I've ever seen and heard.
I just remember playing drums, like not even being able to play because I was laughing so much.
Just the sound of his voice was just putrid.
Apologising after every single song.
Sorry to have to do this to you all. It's harder than it looks.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for being bad.
Sorry.
At the end of the set, Chode tried to do some merch and had kids tell him he was amazing and ask him to sign things.
Looking back, it was the worst thing I've ever heard, but I still think I did okay.
Our bass player at the time, Kashi, was having a kid.
We had a word with him one night in Frankfurt, I think it was.
He said he still wanted to be in the band, but the more we were overseas, the more it became apparent that it wasn't going to work.
I just said, look, basically, you're not into it and you're having a kid, you should just go home.
Baby! Let's go, Kashi!
Yeah, Kashi! We found ourselves in the interesting position of being stuck in Europe with no shows, no record label, and no bass player.
We'd done this before. We'd replaced the bass player with someone that looked the part and could play bass and was obviously had gear and stuff like that, and it didn't work out.
We'd rather someone that could just get the job done, but someone that we could hang out with as well.
So we thought, why not just fucking get someone that we're mates with? Like, who cares if he can play bass? Just as long as he's sort of got some musical rhythm to him.
We started throwing around ideas for bass players. Then we thought, why not just get Pi?
Pi is this weird, long, ugly dude. He looks like a squashed frog.
Pipey is a filthy animal.
He has this hair that covers this fucking dog box looking head.
He's just fucked up. He'd sell merch for us and just do funny shit and like eat cockroaches.
You're not putting it in your mouth.
I guess I was just a little kid that liked it when my mates would laugh at me for doing something stupid. I guess I sort of enjoyed being fucking rough.
I called him up that night from Frankfurt. I said, do you want to be in the band?
At the start I thought it was a joke when he called me. He's like, hey, Cash is leaving, do you want to come to Europe and finish this tour with us?
I thought it was great because he's always there with them, and he's just a mate, and they could have fucking got anyone they wanted. Like, I'm sure there was bass players all over the world wanting to do it.
We were really sceptical if he could actually play, but we knew he was a good kid, and he was a good friend, and for us at that point in time, that's all we wanted, was a friend.
I sat at home for a couple of days before I had my flight to London, just trying to figure out the songs on bass, even though I'd never played bass in my life.
We flew him out like a week later, and he started jamming.
We had a show booked in Paris. What we didn't realise was the show was on a boat.
Is that where my first show is?
He dropped his pick, I don't know how many times. He'd trip over the drum kit, he'd fall over the monitors.
I was sort of on the other side of the world, freaking out.
He was terrible at the start of the band, but we knew that. We knew what to expect. We knew he'd never played bass before.
But I think it was probably the first time in the band's career we were completely comfortable with the person we had on stage with us.
Again, we were on a tight budget.
Our financial resources weren't exactly booming.
We were way too poor to afford hotels, plus we didn't really like them.
You just stay with people you meet at the shows, or stay with whoever you can, really.
We realised we didn't know anyone, we didn't speak the same language, we had no place to sleep.
And we just ended up pulling up to some field and sleeping behind this hedge. From then on, it just clicked. We were like, we're going to do this every night. It was great.
And it set a precedent for the rest of tours. We started sleeping outside.
Have a look at our sleep last night.
We found a ship one day on the beach, just this old rusted out ship and this rock floor, and it was just a perfect sleeping environment, so we went and slept in there.
Slept in some mental, field in Czechoslovakia.
We got here about 4 in the morning. The sun was coming up. We slept in a cow paddock. And I got attacked by ants.
I remember them telling stories about how they'd just be driving and they'd go, well, let's turn down that dirt road and see if we can find a place to sleep, and then just drive around and go, yep, that looks good. Let's sleep in that little clearing of rocks. That looks awesome.
It's getting better. It's almost icy. That's getting better.
Is that better? Is that improving?
Mosquitoes, rain. I remember some of the places we slept at, my pillow was a curb.
We were away for 5.5 months. I think we stayed in 2 hotels maybe the whole time.
After Europe, we headed over to the States for the first time. We landed in LAX for the first time and immediately found our new love, which was California.
It was hot, there was surf. We hadn't been in the surf for about a month.
Every day it was just 4 to 6 foot, just these fucking wedges peeking up, and we just go and body surf it, just have the best time ever.
It basically meant everything that we were deprived of in cold, grey Europe.
We loved the wedge, we loved burritos, and also we loved the place we discovered called the Flow Rider.
I'm not coming the same old. I don't leave them the same old story. Not coming the same old. Don't know who they think I should be.
I'm not sure when we found it, but when we did, we couldn't believe what we were seeing.
Just perfect barrel, and we just lost our minds. We thought, I can't wait, I'm just going to get so barreled.
We were all pretty shitty at it at first, but Jeff was amazing.
I'd have to say I'm pretty good at a lot of sports. I beat most people at just about anything. But Flow Rider?
He'd have his little hands and he'd spin them sideways like this and fall over the falls, and he's done.
It can be the funnest thing in the world, but as myself and other people have found out, it can also break you.
You can go there, let down your hair, anytime that you like. You can stomp your feet, move to the beat, keep it going all night. Everybody's dancing on Saturday night. Everybody's dancing on Saturday night.
Yes, it was.
We drove to Denver and started our first tour in the States.
On the show side of things, everyone sort of basically did a piss on us.
Like, we loved driving around and seeing the country, but again, we had no press, we had nothing. We weren't even on the flyer.
And that was the great thing about them going to do that. And that's kind of what they do. That's what Parkway do. It's that great work ethic they've got, which I think has helped them get so far.
You know, Graham probably could get charged for slave labour or something because this band, like, never, ever fucking seems to stop.
Springfield, there's possible tornado. There's lightning on our brains. We're hoping that thing stops the band from getting crushed by a tornado.
Oh, everyone's dead. This is it. It's nice knowing you. It's been a great tour. This is it.
Holding my ankle's dead.
Boys, we're in the middle. Wait, it was coming from that way. That's it!
On the whole, the first States tour went way better than we could ever have hoped for.
Obviously pulling minimal crowds and stuff, but they persevered.
It really started our progress in the States.
Fucking draw four out, you cunt! You had a draw four. You could have done it, but you're too stingy. Put your draw four.
Look at my cards! There's no draw four!
What happened to the draw four?
You
I
fucking
saw?
flat face!
What happened to the draw four that I saw?
We were still looking for labels to release our CD, Killing with a Smile, in the States, and no one was really coming to the party again.
Basically, we got the same response from everyone, and that was, we don't want to take a risk on an Australian band.
And then one day Graham emailed us and said, Epitaph interested in putting the CD out, and we were like, holy shit.
They were the first punk label we ever listened to, and all of a sudden, they're taking interest in our band.
You know, there's a lot of bands doing this sound. There's a lot of different genres in hardcore. There's a lot of different genres in metal. The thing about Parkway Drive is they combine everything perfectly. A lot of bands try to do breakdowns, and they're just not half as brutal or half as heavy as Parkway Drive's. At the same time, they seem to have roots in classic California punk rock, which is my original love and the original kind of punk rock I got into.
From then on, they were just all on board, and we just couldn't believe we were signed to Epitaph.
Even though we were so heavy, and they didn't even have any bands like us in the label at the time.
It meant we had a solid label backing us, and it gave us the chance to tour more. So that's what we did. We just started touring again.
Destruction. Now I am the question. What's the
Sometimes it'll get a bit boring when you're doing the motions of a tour.
I know when my friends send me little messages of the surf pumping back home, it makes me pretty upset, it makes me want to be home.
Living with 6 other dudes sometimes becomes work.
Fuck you. You shot me 2 times for no fucking reason.
Don't hit him.
I'm sorry, Shane, but that was fucking not right.
There's times when the last face you want to see when you wake up, other people in your band.
Oh, he's there! Take it with me! I know he's coming! Yeah! Take it down, Charles! Oh! Knee to the head!
All day, every day for 3 months, 6 months straight.
But we're all still the best friends, and it's been 6 years.
Dude, I've got you covered, brother. Oh, the boys kicking holes in the room. Oh, who on top me? Back top.
It was time to start focusing on writing a new record, as we'd pretty much gone through the cycle of Killing with a Smile.
We found the idea of writing a second album just as hard as writing the first one.
We were considering other options for recording because we really wanted to step up the next release.
They actually decided it was a good idea to call me back to record a second record for them. Idiots. What the hell are you thinking?
In the end, we just thought, he's done such a good job on the last CD.
He's so easy to work with, he's got such good ideas.
I blew it the first time, I'll blow it again, fools.
With Horizons, we just wanted to make sure everything was spot on.
So we concentrated on having big sing-alongs, massive breakdowns.
I wanted it to be a little more technical. I wanted to challenge myself a little more.
We put a lot more conscious effort into the way songs were structured.
Just trucked through, had more time. We got to cover a lot more things, make sure things got a little tighter.
When Horizons dropped, it blew away any expectations I could have had.
Killing with a Smile kind of laid the foundation, and then they came in with Horizons, and it just blew things completely over the top.
They're in a position where they could have easily slowed things down or popped things up, but you know, it's a heavier release.
To me, Horizons is a step up. All their stuff is great, but I think on Horizons, they're taking their craft and they're honing it and they're bringing it even more.
Horizons became one of the biggest CDs as far as heavy music goes ever in Australia.
To kind of burst into the mainstream chart, it came in at number 6, which is phenomenal. I mean, that's up there with, you know, like your Britney Spears and shit like this. It's all of a sudden, you know, The Age and the Herald Sun and mainstream newspapers are like, who the fuck is Parkway Drive? Where did that come from?
They're totally extreme and confronting, and yet wildly popular.
The response to Horizons far exceeded any expectations any of us had.
The difference in the amount of kids turning out to shows when Horizons came out was staggering.
Parkway Drive is the only band that I know of that put up a career in Europe within 2 years where they jumped from 150 average to over 1,000. Pretty impressive. I don't know any other bands who can pull that off.
I just want to say something before we get going. We actually played in this venue about 2 years ago, and I think there was about maybe 15 people watching us.
playing these shows to people that don't speak the same language as you, and yet they're absolutely destroying venues. They're singing along in these weird accents, screaming these lyrics that I'd written in my little room back in Australia.
Turnouts became bigger, the band became bigger, and transportation became bigger. They started going out in buses. That's good.
Shows in Europe had got to the point where it was almost as good as playing at home.
You'll sort of often read about how pop band is sort of doing so well in Australia, but yet they go overseas and they make a big deal of doing one show in LA or doing one show in London. And, you know, I've got a band sort of doing 2,000 people in London. Why does no one pay any attention to that?
This band's just fucking toured the last 4 or 5 years hard, just kept going back and back, and that's how you do it. Like, you just got to keep playing shows, get your name out there, tour, and they've done it.
You know, they didn't need to be played on commercial radio. They didn't need MTV to be playing them. They did it on their own. They did it through absolute hard work.
Fuck, that's as good as it gets, because you can sit back at the end of the day, realise where you got to is because of yourself, and no one else is to fucking, like, take the credit away from the band.
We never expected any of this. We never asked for any of this. And yet, we find ourselves in a position where we've seen so much more of this planet than most other people in the world.
Well, I've always wanted to travel, and being able to do it with this band, it's just a dream come true.
Friend of Brad?
Brad's friend, we're in Budapest.
Yeah.
I get to hang with, you know, some of my best mates and get paid for it at the same time. For me, that's basically as good as it gets.
They come to Europe, actually want to see things, want to learn something about the culture, want to travel, want to go to crazy places.
It's almost like, you know, the band is almost a vehicle for them to see the rest of the world.
Oh, you're a fucking legend.
One day you'll be like in a castle in the snow, then the next night you'll be sleeping in a shipwreck on the beach.
Fellas, this is the pinnacle of touring thus far.
It just gives you the opportunity, apart from playing to thousands of kids all over the world and then being stoked on your music, to be able to tour the world and experience it and see all this crazy shit you might not have even seen.
Smelly pussy? Smelly pussy. Sweaty pussy.
Day one, Sweatfest tour. We're loading in for the first show of the tour, and this is how we're getting here. The last Australian tour we did was called Sweatfest.
It's the biggest tour, again, that we've done to date in Australia.
First show we played was in Brisbane. We had to play this giant place called the River Stage, which is basically a hill.
For us to headline a show there was kind of surreal.
3,500 people ended up rocking up at that show.
A festival-style show with barriers, 50 security guards, and a massive sea of people on this hill. And I was just like, this is just ridiculous.
Sing-alongs that night were deafening.
For a band that gets no radio play, no management like company pushing them or whatever, it's just unbelievable.
It blows my mind that just a hardcore band can do that.
When did this happen? When did like 3,000 extra people start coming to their shows?
For the first show of a tour, you can't ask for a crazier way to start.
Adelaide as well. Adelaide was a funny one. We'd missed our flight and it was looking like we weren't going to make it.
And every band other than us didn't get to play the show, and we ended up getting to the show 1.5 hours after we were supposed to play, rolling straight out of the airport into a van, straight onto the stage, and playing a set to 2,500 kids or something like that. The size of the crowds coming out to the shows was just insane. It just took touring in Australia to a whole nother level. One day of running a head cam.
And the idea comes from surfers who have head cams when they're sitting in the barrel and shit like that.
I wore the head cam, Luke wore it, Winston wore it, we got it on a security guard.
And gave it to our mate Haz to do whatever he wanted with, basically.
Now immune to all the carnage, we turn upon ourselves. These times of desperation, we are the virus that has infected to its last. Nothing is sacred, nothing shall be said. No one shall be spared the horror that is yet to come. Destroy and discard, this is all that we know. Like a flash, lightning, roads can lead the flames, stalking this arid wasteland. How much them you can shine, the flame of morality will by the wayside. You guys in the pit over there, you guys over there, and you guys in the middle, open this shit the fuck up! Pick your fucking feet up! Holy shit! How's it still going?
Gonna grab my surfboard, I'm going on a holiday. Ain't no messing around, I'm heading to Byron Bay. Gonna take my girl along as we cruise on up, we'll be singing a song. Byron Bay is where we're gonna play.
Coming home to Byron is probably the best thing I ever do.
Surf, the sun, mountains.
Go on the beach, go snorkeling, going surfing, hang with your friends, eating real food. It's just great.
Place to surf, why go anywhere else? What's the point? Hey, my girl and me, we spend all day in the waves. And then at night when the feeling's right, I'm lucky she misbehaves. When the sun comes up, I'm there to catch the first rays. Head down on the beach, don't wanna waste my days.
Being away so much, coming home, it's just the most beautiful place in the world. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else.
The surf's great, the people are good, there's plenty of things to jump off, plenty of things to entertain yourself with. This whole band, this whole existence has just been one surprise after the next. From starting in something so small to touring the planet is just something you don't really comprehend. So predicting what we're going to do in the future is like rolling dice.
Too much pressure. Fuck! I blew it. It could have been famous, but then I just ruined it. Why are you so Why are you
I was fucked.
Fuck! I got stung by a bee.
What's going on? What are you doing? To see the sunrise over the sun. And all the beaches pure and golden in the sun.
Yes.
The way it always should be. For all the generations yet to come. For all the generations yet to come.
Fuck it, that was shit.